the astral plane.
Come back from the astral. Hello, everybody. I hope you are well. This is Jade Shaw, outer body experience and astral projection teacher, and the lovely author Carr, the lucid dreaming teacher. And we are in our bedrooms.
I'm on my bed.
I'm on my bed. Except I can't move because I've balanced my books on my bed with my laptop in order to hold my phone in place. So I've got to move very particularly. Yeah. So we are in bed in our pajamas with our hot chocolates, ready to talk dreams and altered states and anomalous sleep experiences. How have you been, Tree, before we start?
I've been good. I've just been working up a storm. Getting ready for a retreat, really, with lots of...
Oh, yeah. No, it's...
And I'm super excited. You know, when I was thinking about it, it's like the cool thing about this is that everyone's going to be at home in the comfort of their own home. And there's something really nice and intimate about that as well. And possibly the chances of people having an experience might be greater too, because they're in their own comfort, their own bed, their own environment. But then we'll be guiding them through some of these really effective techniques and methods that it might be a really good chance for people, because it's almost like we're guiding them all. We're having a sleepover, you know what I mean? But people have their own...
having a sleepover. It's going to be so much fun.
Because you know how it is with retreats, like you're in, you know, you go, you travel to a place, so that's a disruption, and then you get to the venue and it's like strange smells and strange sights, and then you might get like a bed next to a window with a draft, and you know what I'm saying? So there's kind of a volatile chance when it comes to what kind of environment you have. So with this like online sleep retreat sleepover, it's kind of cool because people can have their own environment that they've been in, and they're getting used to dreaming in. So might be it's a cool experiment, if anything.
Yeah. No, I think it is. And I just know that from doing these in person, that there's always lots of strange connective experiences as well. So it'll be interesting to see the group when we take them through all the meditations, when we do the Wake Back to Bed live with everybody at like 4 in the morning. Or if you're on the East Coast, you'll be going into sleep. If you're in the UK or Europe, we'll be waking you up in the middle of the night in our pajamas like this. It'd be interesting to see what kind of experiences people have generally, but also if there are any kind of interconnected, mystical, psychic ones, because often that happens. And I know that you've had some crazy experiences like that with yourself, but also your retreats as well.
Yeah, I'm always having crazy experiences with myself. All the time. It's part of the fun.
Yeah, it is part of the fun.
In the retreats, especially in group settings, there seems to be like this interesting energy that forms between everyone who's there. Like for one thing, you all become like a bit of a family, like a dream clan or Astral. Yeah. And then also because we're all within the same mindset and same intentions and really diving into the dreams or the astral, there's power in a collective, you know, there's power with people meeting as a group. And my retreats in the past, people seem to have mutual dreaming quite a bit. And so the next morning when we are all sharing our dreams from the night before, often there are, you know, people who have had identical dreams or appeared in each other's dreams with similar content, similar themes. Like it's really uncanny and quite exciting and slightly mind-blowing for some people when it's the first time they've experienced anything like that. So yeah, there's something to be said about group journeys. They're definitely there's something semi-telepathic that happens sometimes. And I know certainly this is the case too with other types of journeys too, like plant journeys, shamanic journeys, plant medicine in groups. There's something powerful about the collective. So it's a cool chance to compare notes and see, you know, what people have experienced. That I love that from an experimental point of view.
Yeah, and we do have the science on that when we train collectively, like when they've done the mass meditations in several different places, and the meditation has had an effect on the local crime in the area, which is being lowest statistically at that time in the year, whilst the mass meditation is going on. So if that happens with a meditation, imagine if we are all lucid dreaming at the same time. In fact, I mean, you know, if some people really wanted to, we could maybe offer an option to do an experiment, which is something I often do in my 6-week course, where two people can either choose to try and meet up, and there's varying guidelines around that, or it can be that I set an object. So, oh, this is going into more out of body experience territory now, but it can also be that I set an object somewhere in my room that's very distinctive, not vague, and then people try to see if they can astral project into my room and see what the object is. When I did this on the 6-week course, we had I think 3 hits. So it was an egg-shaped kind of crystal that means fertility to me, and we had 3 people guess correctly and link in with that. So I was even quite surprised at the accuracy, because I always take a skeptical stance on most of these things, as some people that follow my work know. So I was like, whoa, this is crazy, and this is deep stuff. So I'm really looking forward to it. Shall we talk a little bit about lucid dreams and astral projection? Because some of the people watching might not know either what either of them are, or maybe what the difference is, things like that. What do you think?
Yeah, that's a really good point, Jade, because you know, we hear these terms quite a bit, and we see them written in articles and headlines or whatever, and sometimes we don't know exactly what the true definition is. So anyone listening who wanted a definition, I'll explain about lucid dreaming, and then Jade will talk about astral projection and the out-of-body experience. Lucid dreaming is a very unique dream state in which you become completely aware and conscious within the dream itself. So it's a dream where you, quote unquote, wake up in the dream. And when you wake up in the dream, it feels absolutely shocking in a way, because of the vividness and the real visceral quality of the dream itself. And often dreamers will get so euphoric and excited that they will wake up as soon as they realize that they're dreaming. And often it's like, oh no, like if only I could stay in. So with a lucid dream where you're able to stay in, it's quite wonderful, because then you can start to co-create with the dream. You can start to interact with it. You can go up to dream characters and ask them questions, conversations with them, or simply ask them what they symbolize. Or you can ask the dream to simply show you something, and something very profound might end up happening that helps you learn something a little bit more about yourself, or the nature of reality, or the universe, or anything at all that is within your scope of consciousness. And often it feels as though the dream gives you what you need as well sometimes. So having said that, some lucid dreams can take the form of a nightmare as well, where it can be a lucid nightmare, but they can be some of our biggest teachers as well. But yeah, so I guess in layman's terms, a lucid dream is a fully conscious dream where you're as conscious and present as Jade and I are right now with you.
Although I'm not sure how conscious I am at the moment. I mean, I think I'm conscious, but you know, a little bit.
That's a good question. And someone asks if you can go out from a lucid dream to astral. So that's something we're going to be covering in our retreat. And Jade's going to go over some techniques on how you can springboard from a lucid dream into the astral plane. So it's something that can happen, and you can definitely do. And I've done it. Jade's experienced it as well. And so what's astral projection, though? In case anyone listening is like, what is she talking about?
Yeah, okay, so it depends what psychological lens we're looking through when looking at out-of-body experiences and astral projection. So, for example, if we look through the spiritualist lens, it might be interpreted as the spirit or the soul leaving the body, similar to shamanism, the spirit leaving the body. In psychology, it would be a little bit more like we are creating a imaginal world based on our memory and our imagination, and that it's so real that we can project into it. And then we'll leave it there. I won't give any more. But basically, my feeling is that we are more expanding beyond our physical body, as opposed to our full soul or spirit kind of leaving the body. Because when we look at what a lot of these traditions say, it does seem to be that our self-awareness is leaving, as opposed to our full entirety of our consciousness. So if I were to have one right now, two things would happen in regards to the aspects of an out-of-body experience. So the first thing would be that I would have this sense of separation or expansion. This is what it feels like. I might float out, roll out, or sink out. So there's varying ways. Sometimes you might find yourself shooting out, or a little bit like you've been pulled out by somebody, but there's this sense of moving out from the body to the point where we cannot feel or have any sense of the body at all. Then the second part is we find ourselves as a floating point of awareness. Sometimes that is embodied in a light body, also known as a subtle body, or an energy body. And when it happened to me for my first adult out-of-body experience, I looked like a translucent mirage, a little bit like the Invisible Woman, I say. So sometimes we have that, but sometimes we are just a floating point of perception. And then we can go travel to different places and see different people, potentially beyond the realm of time and space, depending on what your view is of this. But I think I'll tell a story that could maybe give a better example. So in Tibetan Buddhism, they still practice out-of-body experiences today as part of dream yoga. Now, dream yoga doesn't necessarily mean in the dream, although lucid dreaming and out-of-body experiences are part of dream yoga. But it's called dream yoga because it's about waking up to this dream, this collective everyday dream that we all take part in. So this is why they call it kind of dream yoga, because that's what Tibetan Buddhists believe about the nature of reality, that it's inherently empty and it's all like a dream, an illusion. So with the out-of-body experiences, there was this master called Mindralin Rinpoche. One day he was in his chair and he was known as the sleeping master. And he would be asleep all the time, practicing different forms of dream yoga, so lucid dreaming and out-of-body experiences. And people would queue up to get blessed, and he would kind of wake up and like hit them on the head and then fall back to sleep, so he wouldn't wake up fully. And one day he woke up, very rare, and he called to his wife, and his wife came and he said, "Put the kettle on, 5 cups of tea." Half an hour, and he said in half an hour, kettle on, 5 cups of tea. In half an hour, there was 5 guests who came up the hill to his place. And basically he'd seen in an out-of-body experience that they had broken down in their van at the bottom of the hill. And he saw that they were coming up the hill and told his wife to put the kettle on, as we also would do in Yorkshire, which is where I'm from, in North England. So he'd had an out-of-body experience where he'd been able to go out into objective reality, or what we call the physical or the etheric plane, and see what's there. And this is slightly different from lucid dreaming in that lucid dreaming, generally, we are situated within a dream. And a dream, if we assume the dream is our own 3D reality of our own unconscious mind. However, there's lots of different types of dreams, even within the lucid dream. For example, you can have a precognitive lucid dream, so a dream that shows you something of the future. So there are slight differences. One very obvious one is that out-of-body experiences can happen in any altered state. So you don't have to be asleep at all. Lucid dreaming only happens in REM. However, if we imagine that the lucid dream is like a computer and an out-of-body experience is like the internet, we can springboard from the computer of our own mind, where we have access to the files, the hard drive and the pictures. We can then springboard through the cable which attaches to the computer into the internet, an out-of-body experience where we can have contact with different sites, different people and retrieve different veridical information. So there does seem to be a malleable boundary between our individual self-consciousness, the dream state, and wider realms of reality, the collective consciousness. So this is a slight difference between the two, but there's also different aspects where you can tell whether you're in an OB or in a lucid dream. And we're going to be talking about that at the retreat that we are doing. I'm going to do a whole session on how to use lucid dreaming to springboard into astral projection and the different signs and symptoms of what that looks like for you to explore and experiment with. So I'm going to bring that little bit to it, but Tree is going to do an amazing plant herb dream ceremony, which is going to take us into our dream state and also ground us the next day. So do you want to maybe tell us a little bit about the dream herbs, Tree? Because I don't actually know a lot. I always throw out mugwort. I'm like, yeah, mugwort's really good for dreaming. I don't really know. I've done a bit of practice, but Tree is like the expert on dream herbs. So she's going to do a great.
Let me just my phone. I just got to make sure that my battery's not going to die here. Oh, my cable's for some reason not working. 1 second, and I will explain that a lot. Typical, right? Technology, yeah.
Oh, that's okay. Take your time. It's fine. This is how these things go when they're live, isn't it?
It's also me buying like really cheap like phone cables. It seems to break after. But yeah, so dream herbs and plants, they're called winerogens, and there's a lot of different plants that you can work with when taken as teas or smoked as well. They can bring about more vivid dream states, and some of them can actually really help along with lucid dreaming, and some of them also astral projection, especially on the threshold states of the hypnagogic just before you fall into sleep. So I'll be going over some of these amazing plants and herbs. Part of the sleepover and the retreat is to have some of these herbs and plants in your home. So we'll be, you know, if you join up, we send you links of where you can get them, so you're all prepared and you have everything there. So we'll be virtually doing these dream plant ceremonies and connecting all together and partaking in these the tea together before we go into meditations and before we go into our sleep states in order to achieve hopefully lucidity, hopefully out of body states. And also in the morning too, I've a herb as well in the morning that is associated for waking up and doing dream interpretation and for connecting in with the rest of the dreamers and sharing this dream herb together virtually and speaking about our experiences from the night before. So I'm super excited to bring all this information to you, to also reconnect with nature as well, because we have such a symbiotic relationship with our planet, and a lot of the knowledge of these plants and herbs have been lost, and it's mostly through tradition and word of mouth that they've carried on the lineage of being worked with. But from the approach that I like to work with plants is from the approach of the plants are our guides and our teachers, and we respect them, so we hold them in high regard and high respect and work with them alongside them in partnership to open up these spheres and these realms for us. And they're in no way something to become addicted to or rely on as a crutch, but they're simply nice little guides and kickstarters to do this. And some of them taste good. Some of these dream herbs taste good, and some of them taste like total shit. But that's part of the fun too. And we can all go together on Zoom as a collective. And
I mean, let's be honest, most of them taste awful, at least in my experience. But maybe that's just me. Maybe some people love the taste.
And I'll give you lots of tips on how to make them taste a bit better too. So I'll make sure my culinary skills come into play, and we make sure that your palates aren't totally tortured.
And it's similar when you were talking about when you were talking about the dream plants, using to help, but it not being used as a crutch for the practice all the time, I think that's really important to say, because something that I use in my workshops, but also that we will use it in retreat, is binaural beats and isochronic
Yeah.
tone. So for those of you that don't know, you can use this as a beginner to get your brain waves cushioned into the right foundational state. It helps put the brain into the mind awake, body asleep state, which is needed for lucid dreaming and needed for out of body experience. And if you haven't heard of mind awake, body asleep state, it's in the words. So it's when your body is completely relaxed and your mind is awake and aware. That's step one for out of body experiences and step one for waking induced lucid dream as well. So when we have binaural beats, what it is it plays one tone at one side with one rhythm. So I'm going to try and do this now. I tried to do this in my workshop yesterday and I really struggled to talk at the same time. And then in the second ear, you've got a different rhythm at the same time. And it gets your brain, see, I can't do it. I used to be able to do that. I was a dancer, polyrhythmic movement. Hang on, maybe if I do it this quick. That's better, that's better. I can do it. Yeah, oh, it's gone. But two different rhythms, and that puts your brain, tries to equalize those two rhythms out. And through that attempt to equalize those rhythms, it puts your brain into a kind of relaxed state. And there's different types of binaural beats for different brain waves, like gamma and theta. So we're going to be using some of those to help us get into these experiences. So I think with the binaural beats, the plant medicine, and the techniques, we've got a triple triad of a way, and the wake back to bed when we all wake up together and then go back to sleep.
Absolutely.
So I think yeah,
that's why it's a sensorium. So we've called this experience a liminal sensorium, because we want to encapsulate all of the senses, and we need all of our senses when we explore these altered states of consciousness, exploring lucid dreaming. All of your senses are awakened, and as you are with an out-of-body state. That's why it makes it so incredible and phenomenal, these experiences, because your senses are awakened and completely intact. So the liminal sensorium, yeah, so we'll be covering like sound, plant work, meditations as well. We'll be doing a lot of guided meditations. And one cool thing that Jade's going to be guiding people through is releasing fear, because sometimes that can be really a block that holds us back from really exploring, because of fear. And we're, oh my God, if I leave my body, will I ever be able to come back? Or are lucid dreams, are they dangerous? Will I go crazy if I have a lucid dream? No, you'll probably just be really astonished and maybe question the nature of reality, which isn't such a bad thing after all. But we'll be doing a lot of care, self-care and caring and nurturing through the liminal sensorium, as well as lots of sciencey, nerdy stuff too, of course. And then also quite a bit of fun, mystical kind of vibes too, because it is Samhain, it is Halloween, it is a full moon. And, this is a very time of the year, well, between the 31st of October to the 2nd of November. Cultures all over the world celebrate this time as the time where the veil is thin and it's easier to access the other world. So it's kind of known all over the world. We've got the Day of the Dead. We've got celebrations in India as well. And there's a lot of honoring of this time. So we want to approach it from like a sacred and an honoring perspective as well, by working with the thinness of the veil and to journey as a group and to bring all of our senses in. Just having a really great self-care sleepover as well, where everyone feels nurtured and safe to, explore consciousness in these other states. I'm so excited.
I think that's really important. I almost forgot about that. The time of the year is really auspicious for both these practices in terms of tapping into other invisible realms, or through thin places, as some say. Because if you are interested in potentially connecting with your ancestors as your intention. So with lucid dreaming and out of body experiences, we have an intention, what do we want to do? And we have a motivation, why do we want to do it? So if you did feel like you wanted to connect to someone who had potentially passed away, or maybe your ancestors, or connect to the essence of a historical figure that you want to be able to absorb some of their qualities in some way, this is probably the best time. And I don't say this lightly. It's a really powerful practice. There was one of my case studies called Kaz, and she's featured in my out of body experience film. She had an experience of meeting her dead father, and I'll tell the short version of the story. She can tell it better. But her father was in a home, and he had he was in. Oh, you okay?
Yes.
Kaz's father was in a home, and one day she went to see him, and he was acting a little bit unusual. He wasn't his normal self. And then she sort of said to the nurse, "Oh, do you think we should take him into the hospital?" And the nurse said, "Well, let's see how he gets on." And so Kaz left. That day, she got a phone call from her father. Now, this was very unusual because he doesn't normally call, and he was acting a bit incoherent on the phone. So she thought, oh, maybe I should get in touch. But she waited till the next day to go see him. But before she could, she got the phone call from the nursing home to say that he'd passed away. So not only did she feel bad that she'd missed the phone call from her father, but she felt really guilty about that as well, particularly because she had a dysfunctional relationship with her father in her life. And so she wanted to have an out-of-body experience to try and connect with him. And she tried, and it took her a few goes, a little bit of time. But I want to read you what she gained from that experience. So she did finally end up meeting him. And, you know, it wasn't anything mystical. It wasn't anything so far out. It was a really normal engagement with him, and that really helped with her closure and grief. So because I don't want to get her words wrong, I'm going to read them. So when she came back from the out of body experience, she said, "When I came back from that, the guilt just lifted, which was really something I had no control over. My logical brain was trying to work out whether it was even really him. How much can I trust this experience? I was doing all the logical brain things, but afterwards, my actual physiology, my cells in my body just changed. That heavy guilt just went. It was a huge relief. It was a sense that it's going to be all right. Everything is going to be all right."
Wow, that's cool. That's amazing.
So it can be pretty powerful when we do have that connection with what appears to be spirits or soul or consciousness, however we want to make sense of it, beyond our own physical body and reality. So if you're interested in that, this time of year is probably the best. Well, it is the best, given if we're going off a lot of the spiritual traditions for that kind of work.
Yeah, amazing. And a really great intention for any of you who want to explore that in this retreat, and to connect with your loved ones on the other side. We had a few questions here too. Do you want to answer some of them, Jade, as well?
Let's do it.
Let's grab into some of the questions that y'all had. I'm just scrolling through. Here's one here. You are everything in that dream versus dreams are actual places you go. I think both are real and separate experiences. What are your thoughts on this?
Well, yeah. So
I love this question because I always contemplate this.
Yeah, it is.
What is the nature of reality, and are dreams just of our own psyche, or are they actual places within the multiverse that we traverse in, that we go to? Are these actual places?
I kind of lean towards the Tibetan Buddhist view. I don't personally, I don't 100% lean towards anything because I think it's good to be open. But I can say from my own experience, most of the time with lucid dreaming, and I know that the lucid dreaming author Charlie Morley would say 99% of the time the dream is our own unconscious mind, but there is the 1%. Dependent on the dream and the dream characters, there can be rare occasions for me, in my opinion, where it seems to be connecting to something beyond. And this can be that shift from the lucid dream to an out of body experience. But because you're shifting from the lucid dream, there isn't the same kind of abrupt transition that there might be if you were going from the hypnagogic, which is on the cusp of sleep, or if you were awake. So there isn't such an obvious transition because we're already in a type of altered state. We can shift beyond it, and there are certain signs, but it seems to be that on this 1% dream, you can have a connection. So, for example, I mentioned earlier the metaphor of the computer being our own individual consciousness and the internet being the collective. So that for me is kind of how I view it. But remember I said there was the cable, so this malleable boundary between our own individual consciousness and the potential collective or the multiverse. So occasionally, let's say our dead grandma could come in through that cable into our own dream, but she's coming into the constitution of our own consciousness. Whereas with an OBE, we are going out and taking our individual self-awareness with us into the collective multiverse. So for me, it's a case of what is the predominant realm that we're situated within as an individual? Are we sat within the unconscious of our own mind in a dream, or are we in a wider multiverse reality in the internet beyond the dream? That's my current stance, but I'm always open to other ideas for sure. Tree, what's your view? Because I know you might have something similar or different. I don't know if your internet's going or whether it's mine. Oh.
Sweet. I was just flying around in the multiverse there for a second. I just like didn't know where I was. Yeah, my views. I love to contemplate and ponder. I'm in no way a material reductionist, so I'm always looking at what's beyond, what is beyond, and what is in the realms of possibility. I always look back at the origins of the universe and just how incredible that was, the Big Bang, and how we basically came out of nothing. Out of nothing, there was light, and there was an expulsion and a catalytic event. So I always go back to the origins of the universe as my foundation for anything moving forward. I always think if that's possible, if something can come out of absolutely nothing and create all of this life eventually, then anything really is possible. To me, that just is quite obvious. Also, the vastness of the universe as well. I mean, it's so vast. I mean, the possibilities of life out there are pretty great, I think, and that in itself also makes me feel great wonderment for exploration. So I'm very open to talking about possibilities. I'm very open to the concept of obviously the physical universe that is expansive, and it's ever expanding as well. What is it expanding to? We don't know yet. But also I'm open to the concept of a multiverse as well, of multiple dimensions, of you know, that there's more to see than just with the physical eye as well. I just think it's quite vast. So having said that, I also believe in, you know, the perception of my own consciousness and reality, because it's all I know. All I know is my thoughts and what I'm experiencing right now. That doesn't stop when I go to sleep. I continue to experience states of consciousness as I sleep. I've had them in, you know, dreams, lucid dreams, out of body states, and also states of trance states, psychedelic states, and meditative state. So there's all these varying degrees and spectrums of consciousness through varying forms of experiences. So I kind of think it's multi-layered, and I think that the multiverse concept might play into this a bit. So there does seem to be certain dream states where it feels like I felt like I really experienced something. My consciousness really experienced something. And I see that as like so valid, that these are valid experiences of consciousness, even though you'd wake up and tell someone about the dream experience, people would say, yeah, but it was just a dream. So it gets shrugged off as it doesn't exist. That doesn't exist. But it's like, no, but it was a valid experience of consciousness. It might have been transformative. It could have evoked some great emotion or given you some kind of inspiration, or perhaps it helped you see something in a different way. That, some people get bits of genius come through to them in dream states, and they come back making great inventions. So I really feel that it goes beyond. It's not just the brain processing. I mean, there are parts of that, but I do think that there's so much more to consciousness just than biology. The brain, we're processing junk data from the day. It gets exciting, and I think it's a big part of the evolution of humanity, maybe even the other creatures of the planet as well. Dreams seem to be something that we could evolve into, and I remember talking to Charlie about this before, that perhaps lucid dreaming will be we will evolve to a point as human beings that we're lucid dreaming like every night, all the time. But I do feel, part of me feels like there could be some aspect of multidimensional connections in these sort of states, and I'm open to that concept. Of course, I wouldn't say I can prove it. I'm just saying, as a hypothesis, I find it quite attractive.
Yeah. And when you think, when we think about what we currently know about the universe, is in terms of like, what do we know in physics about the entire universe? I think we only know it's either 4% or 5%. That's what we know of the whole universe. That last 95% is dark matter and gray matter, and we do not know what it is. So I think it's quite arrogant of the human race to think, oh well, no, it's definitely this, especially when we are observing these the physical matter through the limitation of not only our five senses, but also the limitation of our human comprehension, and how we make sense of things. So I think you're right. And if anyone's interested, some of the stuff that Tree's been talking about is getting taken very, very seriously in science and in physics. So I'm going to throw out a few different theories. I won't go into them too much because, to be honest, we'll end up down the quantum rabbit hole. And that's a whole other conversation. So one of them is string theory, which ties in with this idea that there is a multiverse. And this is a very reputable theory within physics. And then there's also simulation theory, which Elon Musk is a believer of, and several different reputable scientists. Simulation theory, the idea that we are all live in a simulation, a bit like a matrix. And then there is the many worlds theory, which is, to put simply, the idea that when we make a choice, and we unfold, we collapse that quantum wave into that possibility. As she was talking about, there's so many possibilities. So that pathway unfolds. Let me say I pick up my hot chocolate. That's the pathway that unfolded. But then apparently another reality splits off where I didn't pick up my hot chocolate. Another reality could split off where the technology doesn't work. Another reality could split off where I just have an out-of-body experience right now. And apparently all of these realities split off into different directions, and then they create their own worlds, and it's just an infinite backup of reality. So that's the many worlds theory. And then there's the holographic universe, which is the idea that it's a two-dimensional universe, but in the background of things, but we are actually more like holograms, which is not the same as simulation theory, but slightly different. So have a look at these, because these are taken seriously by Nobel Peace Prize winning scientists. And now the question is, which Tree was talking about, if consciousness isn't limited to the physical body, and some of these theories might be true, how does consciousness interact with these ideas? How does it sit within all of these different types of pathways? And when we look at OBEs and dreams, there certainly seems to be a lot of overlap with some of the things that are mentioned, particularly in string theory, when you see all the different types of dimensions they talk about. For example, other worlds, almost exactly like our own, but something slightly different. That's what people report on the particular astral plane, that it's an energetic, kind of like an energetic duplicate, but there's some things that are slightly different. And that's, you know, they talk about that in string theory. I know that's quite a broad link, but it's definitely something to look at if you're interested in all of that crazy quantum shit, which is mad. I can't believe we've gone into quantum physics from starting with the well, I can believe it actually, because it often happens. What time are we on? Okay, we've got a bit of time. Should we answer some more questions, maybe?
Yeah, what else have we got here? Let me just put my finger here and scroll through. Any other questions?
Oh, Jess is saying something cool. She's saying, I think we are tuning into our world like a radio station. It's all happening, but we are just tuned into one station at a time. You know, Jess, this is what the former NASA physicist Tom Campbell says. He's an out-body experience teacher, and he worked with Robert Monroe, who is one of the first people to study out-of-body experiences from a secular viewpoint. So he says that we do tune in like a radio frequency, and that it's more like we're shifting data streams. So through an altered state, we shift frequencies and we tap into different kind of aligning dimensions. So
yeah,
it's a very popular theory.
I quite like that theory too, as well, because they're with the radio tuning and the shifting. It makes me think a lot about the biology of the brain and brain waves, and it, you know, we see the shifts of brain waves throughout our day, and they measure our, so when we're awake, we have quick, fast brain waves that are in beta, and they're high frequency, high moving, and we're doing our menial tasks and problem solving, and just had a cup of coffee and we're going to work, you know, thinking of the list. So that's the monkey chatter mind that the Buddhists talk about. And when we want to quiet that mind, we move it in through observation into a slower wave, and often theta, and theta is the dream wave as well. And so there is something to be said about tuning into the different frequencies, into the different waves. So you can measure states of consciousness through EEGs and through the brain waves. And you can see, even there's studies online, you can check it out, like meditators measuring their brain waves, and you see that they change. And also these brain waves are linked with your well-being. So theta waves are a lot more relaxed, and obviously alpha waves are really inspired and quite cosmic. Beta, which we are normally in, are the waves associated with overthinking, anxiety, worry, stress, cyclical thinking, being a Virgo. Kidding. Bless you, love you. I'm just pulling your leg. So you know, it seems as our whole life we're trying to slow down those waves. But the construct of our reality really amps us up to be tuned in to that radio station, which is work, 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 turn over a profit, capitalism, get into your office cubicles, get that caffeine into you to be working. On the weekend, you can have the wine to slow it all back down. And even if you think about people who want therapy and want to relieve themselves from stress, even if they're taking prescription drugs, these prescription drugs, that's what it does. It slows it down. It slows down those theta waves. Interesting, you know, because if you look at little children when they're very, very small, before they start school, toddlers up until like 4 years old, before they go into school, they're constantly in theta. Their brain waves are actually are theta waves. That's why you watch little children and they're playing and they're talking to each other and they're or talking to themselves, talking to imaginary characters. And people often think, oh, children are so in touch and so in tune. And you see lots of horror films about tiny little toddlers who talk to ghosts and whatnot. But these kids are in theta wave, and they're literally walking around like in a hypnotic state, in a dream state. That's why we absorb so much in those formative years, because it's like we're literally walking around in a dream. And that's why those formative years have such an impact. If we've suffered abuse or we've been told certain narratives, we sponge it in. So we spend our whole rest of our life trying to get back to the theta wave in order to heal ourselves. And we go those places with dreams. We go those places in astral, in those theta waves. So that comment about tuning into a different radio station, there's something to be said about it. And I think that's why you get a lot of people talking about, like, wake up, are you woke? Wake up. It's like, are you tuning into some, something different? It's getting out of this construct of what we've been kind of systematically geared towards, to be productive, to think, and to work, and all of these things. We've lost the touch with that wave, that theta wave. Anyway, I won't push any more brainwaves.
I want to just add one thing. Now, I can't remember what it's called, but I do know that. So currently in neuroscience, they just know that we're either unconscious or conscious, awake or asleep. But with lucid dreaming, what they've realized, and they've got this, the neuroscience on this, is that because in lucid dreaming you are both unconscious and awake at the same time. You literally see this because a light switches on the part of the dream, which makes you realize you are awake, even though when you're asleep in the dream, that switches on. And they've now classified it as a hybrid state of consciousness. So they're recognizing it as a third state. So you can either be awake or asleep, or awake and asleep at the same time. And they do say that there are some qualities to being able to do this that changes your brain and enables you to do better things in life. I cannot, for the sake of me, remember what they are, but I do have the files in PDFs on my laptop, but I can't remember what it is. I don't know if it's to do with adaptability. Can you remember, Tree? Do you know? I can't remember. But yeah, I can get them for, if you come on the retreat, I send a list of resources, and I'm sure Tree will send some as well afterwards. So we'll send you a list of a lot of the things that we've been talking about today when we come out of our liminal sensorium.
Absolutely.
So if you've been interested in what we've been talking about, the lucid dreaming and out of body experiences, astral projection, and you're thinking you might want to give it a go, maybe you're curious, maybe you had a practice and you want to restart it, maybe you've had an experience, you don't know how to make sense of it, and you want to explore it in a safe space with teachers and a group of people, we are doing the liminal sensorium, which is a full day retreat on the 31st of October to the 1st of November, which is a Saturday to a Sunday. And that is from, if you are in the UK or British springtime, it's 12 o'clock midday on the Saturday to 12 o'clock midday on the Sunday. If you're on the East Coast of America, you are going from 7 in the morning until 7 the next morning. So you do get the breaks in the right time, like lunch and dinner and things like that. But we'll be guiding you into sleep if you're on the East Coast, whereas if you're in the UK, we'll be doing a wait back to bed with you. Did that make sense?
If not, you just get in touch with us and we can send you the itinerary. Yeah, we just want to make it accessible to all the time zones, and to have it work and make sense, so that you're at least able to get sleep as well. To get sleep as well. And I think it'll be just a really cool thing to do on Halloween, a nice alternative rather than going out. I mean, I don't even know if we'll be able to go out then too, with all the lockdown measures that are coming into place as well. It might just be the perfect antidote, and cozy night in, exploring lucid dreaming and astral projection. Yeah, also a full moon too, so good vibes.
Cool. Okay, someone asked about Australia. I know we can't like we need to try and do another one for different time zones. It's so hard, and we just managed to make it work for kind of East Coast and the UK because it falls in the right places. But we will try to do another one. Someone said, is the UK the same time as California? California's 8 hours behind. We did look into that. That you'll have to wake up at some crazy hours in the morning. So if you're up for that, I think you have to get up at like 5. So I think your day would start at 5 a.m. and then you would finish 5 a.m. the next day. So you'd only have 2 sessions super early in the morning. If you're up for that, then that's amazing. And you might even get some REM rebound in the day when we do the techniques.
Yeah, it could work.
Okay, so where should we send people to, Tree, if they want to get in touch and join us?
Well, I guess either of our websites, right? Can work.
Yeah.
I've got
Actually,
a website.
maybe I can give my email address straight away, or
yeah,
because then
you want to put it in the feed here?
Yeah, okay, I will do. I'm going to put my email address in the feed, but also you can click the link in my Instagram and that will take you through to somewhere with all the details. I haven't done it yet. I will put it on. So my email is info@jadeshaw.com. JADESHAW.com. So just drop me an email, go liminal sensorium, can you send me some info, and I'll send you it over, and then you can join us. We've lost Tree. Oh, she's here.
Yeah, I'll write mine in there.
You're here. You're just frozen in time, but your voice isn't. Ah, we're back.
I'm on the wrong. I just realized that I'm on the wrong platform. I joined.
That's okay. I'll put mine in as well. Cool. So we hope everybody has magical dreams tonight, and maybe this has been inspiring. So even if you can't make it, I hope that this has been useful in some way or inspiring, and feel like you can kickstart some sort of practice.
It was great to be with everybody. Thanks for having us.
Thank you. Okay, I'm going to log out. I'm going to teleport from the realm of digital into the realm of physical. If I can figure out how to do it, because this is my first Instagram live management. Let's see how we stop it. Okay, I'm heading out in 3, 2, 1. Bye bye, everybody. Sweet dreams.